So let's talk about exigency. This is from the reading Exigency, What Makes My Message Indispensable to My Reader. I'm going to talk through a few slides here that go over the reading. So there's an idea here that when someone sits down to write, that it's all on the writer to be clear, to be organized, and to essentially have the responsibility to convey everything that needs to be conveyed. But hopefully by this point, we've likely shared and talked through a few things that have helped you understand that written communication isn't just this. I'm the writer and I'm just going to project my thoughts to the world. There's a lot more to it. There's this interplay between what I'm thinking in my head, how I then understand how to put that into a language, and then there's the moment of from me understanding the language, my thought to my language, then writing it down, and writing it down has so many different aspects to it, so many different connotations, so many different genres, all this different. There's a lot of stuff happening, and then it's also the audience that has to pick it up and understand what's happening. So here in this quote, it says it's writer's job to clarify text relevance, or that's a common uh, uh, common idea is that it's the writer's job to clarify a text relevance. So that's kind of the part that's on you. Like, so if you're presenting a text to someone, if you're writing to someone, you basically have to. The situation has to be. The situation has to make sense in a way that the other person wants to receive it. If I go to if I go to a grocery store and I'm speaking to someone about my what I need to do for class next week, there's no exigence for them to listen to me. But if I go to the grocery store and I say, "Hey, I'm thinking about making this. I'm trying to make a new dessert, and I need some help with finding the ingredients in the store." That the exigency is then there, right? Because it's, oh yeah, this is my job. I work at the grocery store. I want to help you find that thing. That makes sense. But if I'm talking about my work, like that doesn't, like my job, it doesn't make sense. There's no exigency. So rhetoricians sometimes refer to this concept as a text exigency, which may be defined as the circumstances and reasons why something matters, not only generally but specifically at this moment, in this place, for this group of people. So this has a ton to do with context. The context is always going to tell you the exigency. And I meant to make this full screen, so let's do that. So when we talk about exigency when it comes to writing, I want us to stop thinking about writing as writing papers. And this is not just something that you may do as a student in college thinking about writing. People who write articles about exigency in writing also often put things in the language of academic papers, essays, whatever. I'm really pushing us to leave that alone. The last time you're going to really think about papers, essays, is in college. Even if you're doing a scientific study, that's still not really an essay or a paper. I have published articles. That doesn't equal, they're not written like essays. They're not. In some of them, you organize them based upon what we're talking about here, which is the exigency. What are you trying to convey? What are you trying to do based upon your context? So here I crossed out this part that your paper has. So it says to demonstrate exigency, you first need to determine why you're writing. What's the point of me writing here? And I want you to think about this even in this class, for example, when you go to answer a question on the discussion board, when you are taking your quiz and you have to answer that last question or whatever it may be, think about who you're writing to. What's the context of the writing? We're writing to learn. That's the idea here. So, and you're writing to me, who understands this content. I have a doctorate, right? So I've studied this stuff for the past decade. So I wrote a book about it. So like to write to someone who knows this stuff and to demonstrate that you know what's going on. That's the exigency for your writing in this case, is to demonstrate learning. It's not to put on some kind of this goes on to talk about instead one of the best ways to answer this question is to assume a different persona. Think of a persona as a mask that you can put on and take off as a writer. Um, this is this is somewhat true. It is a mask that you can put on and take off. But I want you to focus not so much on I need to become someone else. It's still you, right? Because even if you put on a mask, it's still you. And in different environments, we have different positionalities with different people in different environments with different people. This is what this is getting at. So you need to adopt the persona of whatever it is you need to be in. And remember, if given the specific context that you're in, so if you're in this class, the persona you're going to put on when you write isn't going to be that of a persona you put on maybe in your one-on-one if you have to write an essay. Because I'm not asking you to write an essay at any point in this course. But exigency, right? So, but I just want to hammer home the point that exigency is always paying attention to the context and then appropriately taking on whatever stance on this or in this article it says the persona, but whatever stance you need to take to then appropriately move in the direction of producing the writing you need to produce. And we know this because if I'm going to text my best friend versus text my parents, those are two different stances, two different personas I'm going to put on. But they're both still me. I'm still that same person, even if I'm talking to these two groups of people differently. And we tend to understand that. So this article does talk a lot about academic this or that. And so the first part of it, I put here just to give context. But really what I want to hit home is on this highlighted part. This article talks about adding to a conversation through thinking about your writing and thinking about research. Sure, that's fine. But what I want you to think about less about adding to some bigger conversation is think about the discourse community that you're speaking to. If you're communicating with someone, you're going to share a discourse community. Otherwise, written language wouldn't work. I have to have enough understanding about the other person's position. They have to have enough understanding about me in order for us to communicate the writing. So here, I want to read this the highlighted part. If you wanted to add to the conversation, you first need to briefly listen to discover what the group is talking about, and then do your best to add seamlessly to the conversation, hopefully with your own fresh perspective. And then that last part, it doesn't even have to be fresh. Again, this is still getting into that very academic essay writing where you need to add something new, fresh. Like, no, you don't. What's the point of your communication? But the first part is definitely very true. Like, if you want to add to the conversation, if you want to get your message across, your written message, you have to understand what's going on already. You can't just jump into the middle of a conversation demanding someone listen to you, right? You have to come in and understand what's going on and then actually contribute in the ways that make sense to the group, to the people who are having the conversation. This is part of exigency. It's figuring out, okay, I have this need to communicate this thing, and in order for it to work, I have to understand the context in which people are communicating right now. So, okay, yeah. So I was trying to remember why I added this one. So bold claims can usually command attention, but only if the importance of the idea and its degree of innovation are properly established. This again goes back to understanding your discourse community and understanding that in order for my message to be effective, I often have to make sure people have enough context around what I'm trying to do. Now, you have to pay attention to the rhetorical situation here. Because again, if I'm speaking to you, right, at this stage in the class, I don't have to go back and explain everything we've done so far in the class for you to understand what we're doing right now. It doesn't mean context. I mean, giving someone kind of the context of what's going on means you have to be aware of their position within the discourse community and how they enter into the rhetorical situation that you're in. And again, rhetorical situation meaning is just a fancy word to say that whatever's happening right now, what's the current moment that's happening that's driven you to need to communicate in some way.